All right, welcome into the Questionable Podcast. You got Scotty Questions here with Miko.
What's good, man?
And the Gian of the Hendrix.
Hello.
Thank you for the pause again. I needed that.
I was trying to think of something to say, but something different, clever, witty, but I'm not.
Any more pauses, I'm going to have to.
I feel like, it's got to be like, I feel like it's got to have to be like, if he's going to keep pausing like that, it has to be like some type of dramatic, like lead up music, as if like some like dramatic hero's about to like come onto the scene.
Okay, fine.
Like,
I will get a new drop. I'll get a new drop. That's superhero music, really like a dramatic. Or John, if you want to do it, we can do a drop that way too. You want to come up with it?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, if you're gonna keep putting this much effort into your pauses, I just feel like we gotta.
that one was unplanned.
It was a good one though. I was waiting for something. Anyways, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We got our technical difficulties sorted out from last week. Thank you for your patience, but we are back. We are back on video. We are back on the air here, and we have a bunch of things to talk about, mostly Lions related. But first things first, today, the Lions picked up Kaminsky from the Atlanta Falcons at the end, and we dropped Rosas, the kicker. So we don't have 3 kickers anymore. We just have 2. So do you guys, how do you feel about that? I mean, real quick, any sort of reactions? I know we've got a lot of defensive end players. It feels like we're picking up one after another.
Yeah, I don't have like a huge reaction. I think the only thing that did stand out was like, I was like, that's another defensive end. And I feel like we've picked up a couple edge rushers so far this offseason, whether it's through waivers, and obviously we drafted Hutchinson and Pascal. So it definitely seems like they're trying to create as much competition in that room. To me, I mean, we already know there's a lot of competition in the linebacker room. We know there's a lot of competition going to be at cornerback. I would even say there's going to be a lot of competition at wide receiver. So it looks like they're trying to get as much competition in that, edge rusher room as they possibly can. John Kaminsky, though, I mean, for his career so far in the NFL, hasn't done a whole lot. So I'm not like jumping at like, oh, this is a great signing. I think it's a camp body. It's another guy that you're maybe just kicking the tires on, trying to see if there's some untapped potential there.
He was 4th. Was he 4th overall, I believe, in the draft? 4th rounder?
Probably a 4th rounder, I was going to say.
Bueller? Please, everybody, apologies. Long Memorial Day weekend. We didn't even talk about that, guys. That was John's pause. He was pausing to tell stories, I think. Did you hang out with Brad Pitt without us?
I mean, I always hang out with Brad Pitt without you.
I was going to say, like,
how's he doing?
He's doing well. He's starting to show his age in person.
I believe it. Jeez. Is Tom Cruise though just walking around like he owns the town after Maverick finally released?
Oh yeah, man! And then the new Mission Impossible trailer dropped. Looks great.
How many? Okay,
this is the
how
7th
many more of these are we going to get?
The 7th. And apparently, they're doing the Harry Potter. It's the 7th one, and it's split into part 1, part 2.
Oh come on!
I hate everything about like this and Fast and the Furious. This and Fast and the Furious, it's just like, why? Why are we still making these?
Because people love Vin Diesel. Yeah. Now The Rock is in there. Just adding.
The issue is we could have pivoted. He might as well be.
So
I'm so over like both of those franchises. Like, I don't know.
Anyways, so yes, the Maverick movie did drop. I need to go see that though. I hear it's great. But anyway, John, your big dramatic pause how was your weekend? Again, guys, apologies. How was the weekend? Did we do anything?
It was good. No, I didn't really do much.
Okay.
I was gonna say like, nah, like
nothing I'm willing to talk about.
Oh,
no.
Okay. All right. Good. It'll be on.
You gotta catch Gian after dark to find out what he did this weekend.
After hours podcast.
Gian after dark. We're gonna have to do that. We have to get a drop for that now. We're gonna some 5-minute episode, bonus episode.
Get him some mood lighting. And just like have him like just turn around in a chair with his cat and just petting it.
Okay. That's definitely the photo podcast. Anyway, no, yeah, I didn't get into anything either. Not much.
No, man.
A little bit of boating. I saw Tom Maz away. Maz, shout out to Maz. It was good to see him. And then ran into Nick Williams, who's a massive human being. He walked in. I'm like, that guy must play football. I don't know who he is. I couldn't recognize him, but anyway, we got to meet him for a second. But that was it. On that, a parade and landscaping. Really what it was.
I just had family stuff.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad everybody can get together again.
Yeah, no, I hung out at the crib, grilled. So
what did you grill?
Ribs, obviously. Came out amazing.
Mark don't overthink it, Scott. The official start of summer, you're grilling ribs.
Yeah,
I mean, you gotta. Well, yeah. I mean, unless you hate meat, like some people.
You guys see any of the photos from Movement this weekend downtown? That was packed.
I heard it was packed. I didn't.
Gosh.
My wife mentioned it in passing. She was like, "It is packed down on the Riverwalk," and I was like,
"Oh, that's good."
I didn't know it was this weekend. I mean, it was from the photos I saw. It was packed. So good in Detroit.
Yeah, that's great.
Getting ready for the draft, right? We can handle some people.
Well, we gotta get our practice in. We gotta learn how to handle massive crowds before.
Yeah, that's the start. We got a couple years
before the outer towners come in and ruin our city. That's how we're gonna frame it.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy. Yeah. The riffraff.
The riffraff.
The riffraff. Yeah.
I want
we're well-behaved citizens out here.
Why don't you go home? Y'all go home. So
I agree with Miko. The Roses was expendable. Riley Patterson. I mean,
we had 3 kickers.
Yeah, and one of them's Riley Patterson. So I don't know what even the other one's doing. But Kaminsky can't body.
Shining his shoes.
I'm not expecting anything other than that. Yeah, and I would expect this kind of musical chairs game to continue, just considering how much of an emphasis from top to bottom this organization seems to place on competition within groups. I would fully expect guys to last maybe 2 or 3 weeks and then cycle another one. Miko, I'm curious to hear why you thought the competition in the cornerback room, because I feel like that's one that we're a little thin.
Well, no, because I think you have a lot of guys that performed last year, but then you've also you have Mike Hughes coming in. You have
Mike Hughes.
Yeah, so you just got you have a couple guys coming in. You're obviously going to have a couple UDFAs again. So I just think again, those guys that performed last year, while they did play above their expected ability, they were still UDFAs, right? So it's just a matter of can Chase Lucas beat out a guy? Is Mike Hughes going to beat out a guy? Who's going to stay healthy? I just think there's going to be a lot of competition for both outside corner and a nickel as well. So then you got Will Harris transitioning into playing corner. If he's going to safety, there's a lot of just shuffling. I think is going to be in that secondary room.
I'm curious to see how that plays out. Honestly,
I think it's very interesting that they swapped the two. It feels like a natural swap. Obviously, Iffy talked about it last week when he had his media press conference, where he kind of said this was part of his draft process. People talked to him about playing safety during his draft process, so it's not like it caught him completely off guard. I wonder if it has a lot to do with the fact that his brother played safety. So I wonder if it was just a simple connection between your brother played safety. Maybe you have that same ability to play safety at a high level. So I think measured by if we're going strictly off of measurables, if he seems to fit the mold,
if your brother
to be able to play safety, he has the athleticism and all that. So
I also heard that that Glenn has this belief that secondary functions best when everyone understands every position. That if you as a cornerback understand what a safety has to do, has to look at, has to think about, that makes you a better corner. So I think that might be behind a lot of the position swaps that we may or may not be reading too far into, when it's really just give him reps at safety so he knows, this is a safety's responsibility. So if I'm in whatever situation, I know what I have a better
Yeah.
idea of what I have to do because I know what the safety's thinking in this situation, what their
Sure.
assignment is, etc.
Interesting enough, I think it's I almost feel like I would rather see more of the corners play safety than in that case, because I feel like a lot of the times when you see like breaks in coverage, it's a guy thinking that a safety is going to help over top, and for whatever reason, a safety crashes down or does something else. And I think it's more important that corners go to play safety so they understand. Wait, no, the other way around. That safeties go to play corner so they understand like
Where's
this is the
corners gonna
expectation. Like
be?
this is where you need. Yeah, this is how much coverage you're expected to give before the safety is supposed to come and help. Right, depending on the coverage. Right, cover 2 is a little bit more shallow. Right, like you're not really typically carrying somebody too deep unless you realize it's a vertical route. But in most cases, like safeties are covering anything from like 10 yards to 15 yards. Like that's kind of their zone, is what they're looking at. But sometimes you see safeties cheat because they have their eyes in the backfield, or they're looking at a running back, or they're looking at a tight end, and they crash down when it's like, no, your responsibility is still that 15 yards. Like you kind of supposed to play like, your coverage that way.
I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, they got to be a cohesive unit, and so understanding where the other person is going to be, it also helps them cheat a little bit on routes or like in order to get interceptions. And I think for coverage, if they know where someone's going to be, they can offer that little, like, a couple steps, half a step, could change the game. So definitely interested to see how that is going to play out.
Absolutely. I also think it's very interesting. I don't think we're going to be able to predict what a lot of these moves mean insofar as I don't think we're going to know a lot about the defense. Judging by Campbell's press conference, media availability, Aaron Glenn's media availability, I really think it's complete. I think it's going to be completely different. I mean, switching from a 3-4 to 4-3. There was, I think Jeremy Reisman tweeted out that they had Jared Davis lining up at edge for a couple sets. They had, I think they're just moving everyone everywhere.
Yeah.
And like, it's just to see, as we were just, it was as we've talked about, who can do what. Because as Campbell said in his press conference, I don't ever want the limitation to be us as a staff. If a limitation is this player does this well, but not this well, so we can't do this with that player, that's fine, because players have weaknesses, players have strength, that's fine. But I don't ever want us to, I don't ever want the limit to be us as a staff not utilizing a person in the right way. And I think that is defining their approach to this defense. And I think it's going to look a lot different. I'm extremely excited for it. Davis getting reps at edge, cornerbacks and safety seem to be fluid. And then, just seeing Hutch and Pascal, where they fit in, and it's going to be exciting, man. I'm very, very curious to see where this all goes, which leads to Luke's point. I think we have a point. There's potential to surprise Philly week 1.
Yeah. Well, I think because like you're saying,
how many wins, the defense, 14?
No, I'm still standing between 7 and 10. I'm still standing by that.
I'm
between
just 7 and 10.
I think Luke was the one that dropped 12.
Yes.
But I think to Gion's point, I think that is the thing that's very, very interesting, because like you're saying, being able to switch out guys and to be able to have what I think Matt Patricia ultimately wanted, right, was this hybrid multiple defense. The only concern I have with all this is how it plays out on game day, right? Because you can still only have 53 men active. So hopefully you're not tinkering too much where like one game Jared Davis is active and then another game he's not, or the same thing with Anzalone or Board or any of these linebackers. Like we don't know which ones are obviously going to make it. Like I think again, that's going to be a hella competitive group right there.
Right.
Because I think they were even talking about like Julian Okwara, I think is technically being considered a linebacker. So there's a lot of there's a lot of guys in that room, and you start wondering like, okay, that's all well and good if you think like certain guys do certain things better. as long as it doesn't completely deter from what you do strategy wise, right? Because if,
Right.
for example, if you have the wrong guy active and we're sitting here like, well, why wasn't Julian Okwara active or whatever? And you end up like, for example, like one of the clear weaknesses of Jared Davis's game so far in his career has been coverage.
Yes.
Well, if you activate him, but you're only expecting to use him in pass rush situations, then I hope that you have a very good coverage linebacker that you're willing to deploy so that in the event that the game goes that way, you don't have to feel like you have to play Jared Davis in a situation where he's going to get heavily exploited.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
No, and I mean, I think they're and again, I think we'll see how much of this goes over to the season. Like maybe this is you throw everything at them in OTAs without pads, without anything, where it is all mental. I mean, you're not getting hit, you're not getting hands in your face. It's all mental. And so this is the time for that. And like as we get closer and closer to preseason, closer and closer to the season, these the fluidity of the positions starts to become more standardized, because by that point they will have 3 months, three they will have 3 or 4 months of seeing all of this stuff. They'll have a good data set, and then they'll be like, okay, here's what this person does well, here's what they don't, we can't use this. And so I think to your point, they'll know that, if we go with Jared, we really need coverage. Like we need this person at safety, we need this other linebacker to complement, you know. But again, Aaron Glenn, man, the dude just inspires confidence. And I think he's gonna.
He also likes to break dance.
Real? Oh, right. For the one-on-ones. Yeah.
He's a break dancer now.
That's hilarious.
He also wants Dan Campbell to wear his pants.
Well, I think we all want Dan Campbell to keep his pants on.
Yeah.
we kind of need him on the sidelines, and if he's walking around here without pants, I feel like that's a suspension waiting to happen.
Yeah, sheriff department. No, but John, I think you're right. To the effect, I think they're throwing everything at them right now mentally, and they're probably making it really hard on them mentally, so that when training camp starts, it's not going to be so heavy mentally, more physical, more balanced, right? So they'll be able to settle in easier. I mean, I would assume, and if I was a coach, and I'm not, but I would assume you throw a lot at them right now, so they have like a little bit of time to digest it, right? Like all of us do. It takes a minute to digest, do some research, look at the notes, and go over that, so that when training camp comes, they will have answers right to the test, right, to the quizzes that they're going to be giving in regards to where to be, how to be, where you should be. No, I really do believe our coaching staff is very good, very prepared. They want to win. Every time I see them talk, every time I see them interact with players, I mean, I think you have one of the top coaching staffs in the NFL right now, and it's going to help build this team in the core like it has and like we've started. But we're going to start losing coaches soon. Like that's going to happen. So hopefully they have successors, right? And we have a year to build who those people are. And hopefully, and I'm assuming that Holmes and Campbell know this, so they have to be preparing for this, in my opinion, right? You would think that you got to know that Aaron Glenn's probably gone next year, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's to your point, I think there's some preparations or there's some situations in place for, to replace those guys. But I think at the same time, again, this is what comes with success. If the Lions are successful, you therefore are able to recruit and find replacements for those coaches a lot easier, because people will look at, well, this is what this team did, and this is everything that we've heard about the culture there and how they treat their coaches and how they respect their coaches. So not that it necessarily becomes easier to let an Aaron Glenn go, but the ability to either promote an Aubrey Pleasant or a Kelvin Shepherd, and then be able to fill in those secondary coaches or those position coaches becomes maybe a little bit easier, because you're able to have that reputation of having a very good and collaborative environment where a lot of people are maybe lining up to come coach, alongside you. And
Sure.
if you're Dan Campbell.
Do you think winning would keep John? Do you think winning would keep Aaron Glenn in town?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just
really?
Yeah, this is why, right? And it's unfortunate. It's if you get the chance to be a head coach in the NFL where there's a lack of black coaches, you take it. Now, I don't think he would take any job, right?
That's where
I'm
I
not
was
saying that he would.
That's exactly where I was going.
I'm not saying I'm not saying he would take a dumpster fire, but like if there's a couple like decent jobs where he feels like he can actually have where he'll be set up for success, where he will get the proper respect and the proper time to build a winner. Because anybody that would be willing to hire Aaron Glenn at this point, I would hope that you would be taking very good notice of how Detroit is doing things and the type of at least environment that he's going to be expecting, or the type of environment that he's going to try to create. So if you're not going to allow that to happen, and if he's at least being able to sense that, I don't think he would take any job. But I do think the right job with the right circumstances where he feels like he's being set up for success. Oh yeah, that man's gone. First chance he gets, he's out of here.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I am maybe hopeful that he sticks around is that those stars might not align this season. Because I honestly think if the Lions come out and they do win between 7 and 10, Hutchinson has 7, 8, 9 sack season, and that just the defense looks good. They build off of what they started last season. Then it really seems like Aaron Glenn is in the situation where he gets to pick.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm really crystal balling like this whole statement right here, but like a job that I could see open that I know he would probably jump at to take, like the Seattle job, if like Pete Carroll decides to like retire.
Well, yeah,
like that's a great situation to walk into. Just because you'll probably have some high draft picks, you'll be able to probably find your replacement quarterback, so you'll really be able to rebuild that fan base in your own image. Eagles, maybe. Didn't he used to play for the Eagles? So that's a possibility. Like if the Eagles aren't all that great, he could always go there and play there and coach there. The Cowboys are another one. Like there are places where
I don't want.
I'm just saying, like the Cowboys could be in a situation. Oh, trust me, I don't either.
Yeah,
but it's another job again. Looking so far in the future, as far as like jobs that could open up, I think those are 3 really safe bets, honestly. And it's really like Seattle's going to be in a complete rebuild, so they could decide to just start over completely. Pete Carroll could decide to ride off into the sunset, and they could completely start over. Dallas seems to be, Dallas has always been on this track of like Super Bowl or bust, but I think people were not very happy with Mike McCarthy last year, so it wouldn't be a huge surprise if they decided to cut him loose if they have another less than stellar playoff push. And I think there's still some questions about the Eagles head coach. So I think, again, you bring in somebody like Aaron Glenn, that's a possibility of, again, you have a couple good jobs where those are 3 jobs that I think he would jump at and take without too much hesitation.
Yeah,
well, that makes sense. I get it. Don't want to see him to go, but that's why I bring it up. I mean, again, I think our coaching staff is top notch. I think the Lions, they've done it right. So I'm curious to see how it all plays out this year.
While we were on this subject of the actual coaching staff, one thing that I did not get to bring up, I forgot last week, was the decision to have joint practices with the Colts in August. And that was something that Dan Campbell made the decision to not do that last season. And he kind of, I'm not going to say got dragged, but there were a lot of that decision raised a lot of eyebrows. And then when you go into the season and you have all the injuries that you have, I think that raises more eyebrows. It kind of makes you look back at that decision. kind of like, oh, we were right. And so it is very encouraging for Dan Campbell. Again, I think we've touched on this many times, that he has a different kind of ego. And I think in one of his press conferences, he straight up said, I was wrong not to do joint practices. That's why we're doing joint practices this year with the Colts. And I think I read somewhere, someone talked about that they're actually they're not putting the pads on any earlier, but I heard that they're actually getting more like semi-contact earlier. And I think they're ramping up the intensity sooner, or at least they're doing more stepstone type building up to that NFL intensity. Because I mean, if they have another season like last season with injuries, then I think we have to start talking about something being seriously wrong with the training, something wrong with how they're being conditioned.
Trainer
in the
staff.
training.
Let's get physical.
But having the joint practices and having the increased contact sooner, I think it really shows that they're trying. At least they're saying, here's something we didn't do last season that we can do differently this year, and we're going to try it. And maybe, hopefully, it'll work. But if not,
because they're
not doing the same thing over and over again.
Do they have to do that because they're in Hard Knocks, though? That's my question.
I mean, I think it makes it more interesting, right? Like, it makes Hard Knocks way more interesting if you're able to do joint practices with another team.
I just wonder if it was in the.
But I think so. Just for clarity, though. For just for a little bit of clarity though about last year with them not doing joint practices, it's not that they didn't try to do them. If I remember correctly, part of it was because of how late Dan Campbell got hired into like the off season, like it became a little bit difficult for him to find teams.
Okay.
I found this quote right here where he says, I actually did reach out to some coaches, and I'll be honest with you, I got in on it a little bit late. So a number of the coaches that I called already had things set up. So we struck out on that. I think it'll probably be just us. We'll be competing against each other for those 4 weeks of camp. So to John's point, I think it wasn't. Well, because like I don't want this idea that like Dan Campbell didn't think it was important. I remember something about that because I do remember it was a point of emphasis. Like the Lions have been doing joint practice. A lot of teams have been, but the Lions have definitely been doing them the last few years under Patricia. They were doing joint practices. But I remember there was distinctly a reason why the Lions weren't doing joint practices last year. And it seems to be that, again, Dan Campbell taking a lot of the blame that, like, hey, he just got a late jump on it.
DC taking the blame.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, John, good question, though. So, all right, having covered that, do we want to hop into the main topic we wanted to touch on today, Miko?
Yeah.
Golf train.
Well, we have golf that we're going to talk about.
Golf. I think I am.
We're slowly. We wanted to talk about Jared Goff, but before we jump into Jared Goff, we did want to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown because he was a topic on Woodward Sports Network this morning. And I thought the topic was interesting in that the guys were talking about a PFF article that it came out where PFF had ranked the top 32 wide receivers in the NFL. And amongst that list, or missing from that list, was Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Adam, who's very good at what he does, he did have like a pretty good like reaction or a good tangent on like why he believed Amon-Ra should be part of that list. My thing was, well, first, did you guys have a chance to look at that list at all?
Yes, I looked at the list.
No.
You might want to look.
Did not do my homework.
Gian, you might want to like take a just like a quick swipe through it, because like that's essentially what I did. Was like I quickly just like went through it, because the one thing that I wanted to see whenever like people come up with lists like this and people gripe about who didn't make the list, my biggest thing is who did make the list, and how far down the list do you get before you find somebody that you're like, oh wait, no, that guy is better than this guy. Going through that list, I would say, have you guys ever played spades?
Yes.
Okay. So you guys understand the ideas of books and like having like a possible and two and a possible or something like that. When I went through the list, I would consider two. I would have one guy that I would absolutely say that Amon-Ra was better than, and then there's like two possibles. Like maybe, right? Like I don't know, maybe you could make a good argument that like he's better than these two guys at this point in his career. But I didn't have like a huge gripe other than, again, there's one guy on the list that I'd be like, I don't know, I think Amon-Ra is probably better than him. And that guy was Darnell Mooney, and Darnell Mooney was 32 on the list. So should Amon-Ra have been on the list? Probably, but I mean, again, we're still talking probably about him being at the bottom of that list. I don't think it's a huge oversight, in my opinion, based off of what we were able to see from him last season.
That's fair. And the first thing that comes to my mind is this is the same guy. Like, I think it's a good thing that he wasn't on that list, just considering that this is the same guy who literally checks the stats of the 16 receivers who are picked ahead of, like, still throughout all last season. Like,
absolutely,
just give this guy another chip on his shoulder, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just like, so to your point, I think that's a very good thing for Amon-Ra, because it gives him another reason to prove that he should be amongst those guys, right? Especially when other rookies from his class are on that list. Jalen Waddle's on that list. Obviously, Jamar Chase is on that list. And Devonta Smith is also on that list.
Those were the last three. That was 30, 31, and 32. 30 being Jalen Waddle, 31 Devonta Smith, and 32 Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, and so Darnell Mooney is the one to me that I think you can have a very strong argument. Now, Darnell Mooney had better stats, but I would say for what Amon-Ra did on the second half of the season, I believe is more impressive, because that's where a chunk of, like, that's where a large part of his like 900 yards receiving came from, was like that second half of the season. He was a nightmare that second half of the season. So to me, like, that's the easy argument. The thing that I thought was a little over the top in Adam's soliloquy, I guess, about why Amon-Ra should have been on the list was like he listed guys that weren't on the list, right? He was like, oh, Amon-Ra is better than Brandon Ayuk. Well, Brandon Ayuk isn't on the list.
Wasn't on the list.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is better than Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup's not on the list. The only two guys that he listed that are on the list were Darnell Mooney and Brandon Cooks. Darnell Mooney, absolutely, I would stand shoulder to shoulder with him and say that, you know what, I believe that Amon-Ra St. Brown is a better wide receiver than Darnell Mooney. Brandon Cooks is a little blasphemous. And I get it, because Brandon Cooks isn't like a big name wide receiver, but Brandon Cooks has topped 1,000 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns every season he's been in the NFL except for 2. Like, you kind of got to put a little bit of respect on a guy's name when he's done that for the length of his career. And those 2 years were his rookie year and his last year at the Rams. Those are like his 2 worst years in his career. Every other year, over 1,000 yards. So, like, again, I think he should be on the list, but I don't think it's like that egregious. And I know that might kind of hurt a couple Lions fans' feelings, but I don't think it's that egregious.
Miko, I get it. Do we think this is still a little bit of the Lions, like, not being a better team in general, right? Not getting the respect yet. We're only now getting talked about in national media after our draft picks and where we're at now. I mean, do you think there's still some of that residual, like, no respect?
I mean, I think a little bit, right? I mean, it's, again, we're talking about the top 32. And when you were the second worst team out of 32, it's kind of hard to feel like you should be able to beat your chest and say, like, hey, our guy should be on this list. I think there are other lists that will come out that you will have stronger arguments for. If we're talking about offensive linemen, I think you have a much stronger argument about any of your offensive linemen, being on that list. I think if we're talking safeties, I think you have a strong argument for safeties. I think corners, I think, again, Amani Oruwariye has a very strong argument for being amongst the top 32 corners in the NFL. There's other positions where you can make arguments. Wide receiver is tough, because there is such a wide receiver in the NFL is where there's like a clear difference in tiers, right? Like there's that group of guys where you're just like, yeah, that guy you literally game plan for. Like that guy will ruin your day if you try to cover him one-on-one, if you don't have safety help, all these different things. And it's kind of similar to quarterbacks, right? Like there's a handful of those guys, and then there's guys that are dangerous as part of a system, and then you have a couple gadget guys, and then like again, then there's like potential talent. And I think that's where Amon-Ra fits in, where he should have been above Darnell Mooney, because just looking at what Jalen Waddle did and Devonta Smith, it should have been Amon-Ra St. Brown. But because the Lions didn't have an impressive season, it's kind of hard to frame his season, I guess, in that context.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Because, like, I mean, if you're talking about like top 32 and just, well, the top wide receiver on every single team, but then you have teams like the Chiefs and the Rams who could probably have 2 or 3 guys on that list. So, you know, I think everything you're saying is very fair.
It's interesting how they broke this list down. So I'm going to real quick for the listeners. So they broke it down. The first category is elite. I'm just going to go through the list. Why don't I just do it real quick? It'll take a second. The elite. Number one. What?
Say it quick.
Say quick. Like
the Micro Machines, man.
Micro Machines. I can't do that, Gian. Anyway, tier 1 elite. Devonta Adams. 2 is Cooper Kupp. 3 is DeAndre Hopkins. 4 Stephon Diggs. 5 Tyreek Hill. 6 Jamar Chase. 7 Justin Jefferson. 8 Mike Evans. And that was tier 1 elite. Tier 2, young talents on the cusp of tier 1. Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, CD Lamb, T Higgins, Terry McLaurin, and that was the top 14 wide receivers. Now tier 3,
and I don't think
tier 1. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I don't think any of us would feel like Amon-Ra St. Brown is better than any of those guys.
Nope. Now tier 3, former tier 1 veterans eyeing a bounce back / getting healthy. 15, Chris Godwin. I know it was interesting. Chris Godwin, Michael Thomas, Allen Robinson, Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, Julio Jones, OBJ, and OBJ was 21.
So real quick, Julio Jones was a possible for me. Right? Was one of my possibles, because Julio Jones might be on the back end of his career, and I don't know if he still has, you know, like 1,000-yard seasons, and he was never a big touchdown guy. So Julio Jones was like the first guy on the list where I was like, surprised he's ranked this high.
Agreed.
Legacy.
That's to your point, yes, that's a definite legacy ranking.
Well, all of these are kind of legacy. I mean, other than Allen Robinson.
Well, yeah, in that
he didn't even play last year, and he played half of 2020. You know, I mean,
yeah, but I think we can all look at the Bears and be like, you guys screwed that up,
right?
Right.
Yeah, get him. Anyway, okay, so that was top 21 OBJ, and then tier 4, maybe not elite, but high quality pass catchers. 22, Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett, Mike Williams, DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, Hunter Renfrow, Tyler Boyd, Cortland Sutton, and Cortland Sutton was 29.
So in that group, Hunter Renfrow was again a possible for me. What Hunter Renfrow does for the Las Vegas Raiders is very good. He's very effective in their system. I think Amon-Ra could probably like do the same thing, if not more. So like that's a possible where I think like with the right argument, you could probably sway me that Amon-Ra should be on the list over Hunter Renfrow.
I think he's 96.5% of catchable targets when on the inside. So Renfrow was among the league's best slot receivers. He turned in the 7th best slot receiver grade in 2021. I wonder if Amon-Ra's like above that. I'd be curious.
Well, I think that's a weird stat to point out. Like 7th. Like, okay, well, who's the other 6?
Right. Anyway, so that was interesting. And then the final tier is up and comers. 30, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, and Darnell Mooney. And that was the
So I mean, I think if to Adam's point, right? If Brandon Ayuk had been on that list, if Michael Gallup had been on that list, if I don't know, Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Like if some of those guys had been on the list, I'd be like, yeah, like you have a good point. If Marvin Jones had been on the list, I mean, you might have a good argument. But I mean, a lot of those guys that are on that list like deserve to be on that list. Darnell Mooney, Julio Jones, and Hunter Renfrow are all shaky at best.
Question marks. Yeah, I'd agree.
It's interesting. I didn't hear Zay Jones on that list of top 32.
Oh, he also said he was better than yeah. Well, and so again, that's the thing where like again, guys got paid, right? Zay Jones got paid.
That's where I was going.
Right.
Jags made him what, like the third or fourth highest paid wide receiver.
Yeah, Christian Kirk got paid a ton of money. He wasn't on that list either.
Hey, Jags, do you need help with anything?
Right.
Yeah, counting.
Really, they don't.
Counting and talent evaluation.
Yeah,
that's fine with us. We'll take
like
you.
So yeah, I mean, I think if those types of guys had been on the list, right? Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Cole Beasley, like there were some good receivers in the league that like you're like, oh, they're good, but if they were on this list, I would have definitely been like, oh, Amon-Ra St. Brown got robbed, along with a couple other guys that probably would have been like they got robbed as well.
Sure. So we're all in agreement. He could be on the end of that list, and he should be on the end of that list. But to John's point, and I agree with this, let's just add it to some more kindling to his fire for this season, please. Mm-hmm. Now, Amon-Ra, do what you did at the second half of the season all season, and then we'll talk again. And next year, I think that's. I mean, we'll see. Jared Goff can get him the ball.
I mean, it's crazy to think that. Well, in the absolute best possible world solution or scenario, Lions have 2 or 3 receivers on that list next year. Between Jameson Williams, DJ Chark, I mean, because like Jameson Williams very well could be in that bottom 3.
That's true. At the end of the season,
who, like Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, the rookies to watch. Amon-Ra St. Brown, if he plays all season the way he did those last 9 games, he's got to be in the middle. He's got to be in the middle of that pack. I mean, if he got 900 yards in 9 games, just spread that out over 17. And I'm no math expert. I don't know maths, but I mean that's got to be good enough to get him in the middle. And then DJ Chark, if again stays healthy, where this is colored glasses, best possible scenario. I mean, future's bright. Boys.
Yeah, I think. Well, and so this is another thing that's again, I didn't get to. So I apologize that I didn't get to watch the whole like Woodward Sports broadcast. So I don't know if they might have brought this up. Amon-Ra did make like the end of the year top like receiver list. He came in at like 25.
Yeah, he did.
So he was recognized for the performance that he put up. But to John's point, like, yeah, like I think it's just a year of like, hey, do it again. Right? Yeah. Like let's make sure it wasn't a fluke.
Correct.
Because it did take him half a season to start putting up those numbers. Great second half, but like, yeah, let's see you do it consistently first and second half. But and I don't know if this is what Scotty's doing. But I think the thing that is most like that Amon-Ra is going to be most dependent upon for that to happen is going to be the success of Jared Goff. Like Jared Goff is going to have to show that level of consistency in order for Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark and Josh Reynolds and Jameson Williams to be able to ascend, and Hockenson, right? To ascend to a level that we believe that they should be at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
chef's
kiss. A lot of it relies on Jared Goff. And speaking of Jared Goff, but before we get there, I just want to say I was right like 10 months ago.
Credit where it's due. Scott was right on that one.
Yeah.
Miko's not happy.
Wait, why not? What do you mean?
Well, because what we were talking about, who would have the most receiving yards, right? And Hawk got injured, so it didn't.
Hawk mixed like the last 6 games.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I got lucky, on that. But anyway, still was right. So, speaking of that, heading into Jared Goff conversation territory, Miko, I thought you had a really good way of putting this. Why don't you lead us in here? Because this is going to be really interesting. And I don't know People are going to steal this.
Yeah.
They're going to steal this concept. They're going to talk about this at the end of the week. Watch.
So obviously we've gotten tagged with being a little hard on Jared Goff here, but I had an interesting like thought process today of just like when you're looking at the quarterbacks that are in the NFL, I came up with this hypothetical situation that I would be really interested in hearing what you guys would say. But if you had to trade Jared Goff for another quarterback straight up, but the only caveat is that it can't be a quarterback considered in the top 10, who would you trade him for? And how many quarterbacks would actually be on your wish list to trade him for? Because
a ridiculous question.
It is
tough one though, but it's ridiculous because it's tough. When you start thinking, I'm like, Miko got me. I go, oh well, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, wait a minute, because you talk top
that's
quarterbacks. That's fair.
Yeah,
top 10, top 11, got it. Fine.
It's once you get to 11. I was telling John this, like it's 11 through 15 where it gets really dicey, and that's why I didn't want to do a topic where we rank him, because I think ranking him is a little different. But if we're talking about like we have him obviously as our quarterback, and there's some people who don't want him. Okay, if you had to trade him straight up for another quarterback in the league, but you can't trade him for a top 10 quarterback, how many of those quarterbacks outside of the top 10 are you actually trading him for? And when I did it in my head, there are probably 3 quarterbacks that I would trade him for. Again, not taking into consideration off the field issues or any of that other stuff, just looking at talent, that have like the news broke over my phone or broke on Twitter that like, hey, the Detroit Lions have traded Jared Goff for this quarterback straight up. I would be like, oh, that's interesting, or oh, that's exciting. There's only 3 that I was able to come up with. Everything else to me felt like a lateral move.
Who were those 3?
Wait, no, he can't. Spoilers. Do we want to list the top 10? Do we want to talk about the top? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so for the sake of argument, so if people are wondering like who's this top 10, the best point of reference that I could give you for my top 10 is to look at the tweet that Dan Orlovsky put out today.
I can list it.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want me to list it for you? I got you.
Yes.
I got you, bro.
Yes.
Got you. Okay. So the list is Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford.
Yeah. So that's 11. Of those 11, 10 of those guys are in my top 10. Like there's only one guy who's not in my top 10 of that 11, and that would be Deshaun Watson. That would be the guy that I would have just outside the top 10. And it's really because he hasn't played.
I would agree with you on that. Okay, so having said that, do you want me to list the other section of quarterbacks, or no?
No, I'll tell you guys who I would, the 3 that I would pick over Jared Goff, or that I would trade. That I would trade Jared Goff for straight up and be happy with my return.
Yep.
The first is Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, if for some reason the Lions were able to, again, I'm looking strictly at talent. So before you jump in the comments and
everybody in the comments, calm down. Slow
your fingers down a little bit. It's strictly like, if I'm just talking about off of a talent standpoint.
Illegal.
Talent standpoint, if the news came across, I'd be like, oh, that's exciting. I would think that the Lions have improved from that position. The second is Kyler Murray. Again, a guy that I like, questionable off the field stuff, kind of comes across as a whiny baby. But talent wise, I would be at least excited to intrigued about like the possibility of having that level of quarterback play on the Lions.
Agree. I thought we would reach out for him when he was so unhappy. Didn't happen. But anyways, next, who's number 3?
And then number 3 for me is Dak Prescott. So Dak would be the third guy.
Was it
where I would like so Dak is literally number 3 because he'd be the one that I would be like intrigued by, but I don't know if I would necessarily be excited, right? Because I'm like,
he's the leadership.
I do believe I do believe he's like just a tick above Jared Goff, but I feel like a lot of things that make Jared Goff what he is are very similar to what Dak Prescott and some of these other quarterbacks that you were about to mention, and Dan Orlovsky's second tier of quarterbacks quarterbacks you can win with. They have a lot of similarities to Jared Goff, in my opinion. And so Jared Goff wasn't in that tier, but I believe he should have been, especially in that tier over Tua.
I think to your Dak Prescott point, right? That's why I wanted Malik is for that leadership on the field leadership. I just don't think Jared Goff has that in spades, right? He's got some of it, but not in spades. We need somebody, my opinion, that has that leadership in spades. I think Dak has that. Imagine Dak in our system too. I think Dak with the coaching staff we have also would be happier. Dak, more supported. I feel like Dak has to fight for a lot of what he's earned. And I give him a lot of credit for everything he's fought. He's held out. He's done his. I mean, I got to give him a lot of credit. So, but I do think Dak could, skills wise, obviously, Kyler, Deshaun, but Dak makes up for that in just pure passion, commitment, in more courage, than anything else. I think is what I'd give him. My opinion.
Yeah, I think he's somebody that. Again, if he's the quarterback of your team, you roll into games pretty confident with him at the helm, right? I think
that he'll make the right decisions when he needs to, as long as he'll make supported and like the coach is making it right. And so that's Mike McCarthy. I don't think Dan Campbell's perfect, but
I mean, again, Dak is very similar to a lot of these. Again, that tier that you were going to reference, a lot of those quarterbacks need the perfect environment around them to be successful. And that's something that Jared Goff and Dak Prescott have in common. Like, again, Dak Prescott may be a slightly better leader, a more vocal leader. And again, he may be a better passer of the football, or at least he's more willing to like risk it and try those deep shots a little more frequently than what we saw Jared Goff do last year. But again, like, at that point, you're kind of splitting hairs, but like that's the third quarterback that I personally would consider if I had that option of just trading another quarterback straight up.
Now, my question though, Miko, is I don't think you could trade Jared Goff straight up for Deshaun Watson or straight up for Dak Prescott or straight up for Kyler Murray. Correct? Right?
That's why it's a hypothetical situation. That's why it's a hypothetical.
Okay. I'm just just confirming. Okay.
Yeah.
Because when I was originally looking at the topic, I was going like literally, like, okay, like so I'm looking at then like a Ryan Tannehill or like a Matt Ryan who's 900 years old, or like Cousins, like, which is the same guy. Why do I want the same guy? So I took it more literal. That was
sure.
But of those, I people are gonna hate this, but I do think, and I don't really. Again, this is purely like we're talking talent. I think Baker Mayfield. Now I don't like his attitude. I don't like what he's done, but I mean, he went in and he helped Cleveland get to the playoffs. I mean, he didn't, didn't not do anything. I think that it was a bad situation that got worse. I don't think he helped it. And it was interesting too. If you notice and you look back, he had the locker room until OBJ came into town. Then he lost the locker room. And, I mean, that's not like the end all be all. He did other things.
I was going to say, like, yeah,
but timing wise, it's interesting. You could correlate some of that with, I don't think OBJ really helping Baker in the locker room, but again, I'm speculating. But anyway, so that's where I landed was Baker, and I'm like, because if he can stay healthy, talent wise, he has no problem chucking it downfield, right? He wants to make those plays. I don't think he's big enough, right? Jared Goff is taller. So I don't like how short Baker is, and really escapability, but Goff doesn't have it either. So again, in the literal sense of like the swapping. So the way I was looking at this to me, I landed in Baker. I was like, okay, I could see that. And that was really kind of it. Like Ryan Tannehill's like, okay, Matt Ryan, no. I'm just going through a list. Jameson Winston, maybe for like a week, and then what? Right, like 900 interceptions later. Okay.
Yeah, no.
And Jimmy G was the other one where I was like, I couldn't do it. I'd rather have Baker over Jimmy G. I mean, honestly, of that list, so that's the list I was looking at, right? So it was Baker, Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, Jameson Winston, and Jimmy G. I was in that category of like swapping. Like maybe we could swap. Of those, to me, Baker was the most interesting. And again, in the comments, please have fun with that one. But still, I don't know where he's going to end up. He could be our backup. Buckle up.
Gian, what about you?
Take that.
I don't know. I have a really hard time with the second caveat of this challenge, which is only talent. I can suspend disbelief about the whole swap when you think of it in terms of, you know, who would you rather have on your team? Or who would be an upgrade over Jared Goff, especially, you know, given the way he finished the season. Would Baker Mayfield be an upgrade? Would Matt Ryan be an upgrade? And I don't know. As I said, I don't really watch that many other games outside of the line. So I'm not the best person to talk about
yet.
Got to up your knowledge
for the season.
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I would not take any reason I can give for not wanting Kyler Murray or not wanting any of those guys other than Jared Goff would be personality, character, and whatnot. So I don't know. I don't really have, I feel like, therefore, I do not have much to contribute to this.
You mean you don't want Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Nah.
That's kind of a joke.
But I think the argument stands
over Jared Goff?
But I think, but I think the argument stands then, though, right? Like, there's not as much as, again, and we've been guilty of it too. But
point, I think, John, as well.
Yeah, that there's not an extensive list, right? Like, as much as some of us are not happy about him being here, or as much as some of us are putting, I'm putting a lot of expectation on him because I do think he has to show up, especially if he wants a second contract in Detroit. Like, you got to play well. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There's nothing wrong with having that like expectation on him that like, hey, you have to play well for us to not consider drafting another quarterback or finding a replacement for you. And that's, again, you could love him, you could hate him, but at the end of the day, there's 10 guys that I think we would all agree are considerably better than he is.
Upgrade. Vast upgrade,
right. Yeah. Vast upgrade. It's once you get to 11, 12, 13, and maybe 14, maybe 15, I think where it gets real. You can have a real conversation because all of those guys need perfect situations. They need great weapons on the outside. They need a running game. They need an offensive lineman. They need a really good coordinator. And miss me with everybody needs that. The guys that are in the top 10 needed a little bit less. They don't need everything perfect. They find ways of overcoming deficiencies in other areas off of talent alone, off of playmakability alone. That second tier of guys outside of the top 10 need a lot of things to go perfectly for them to play perfectly. Dak Prescott played his best football when he had an amazing offensive line, weapons on the outside, and Zeke being a complete terror. Once things started getting shuffled around and pieces started coming and going, he kind of started coming down to earth a little bit more, even though he did have a really good season last year. But again, he hasn't always been consistently that guy. The same thing with Kyler. Kyler, for the last couple years, has had amazing starts to the season, but then once he loses DeAndre Hopkins, it's all of a sudden like he's not able to keep the team afloat by himself. Right. He's not able to elevate the receivers on the outside or his other weapons to a level where they can continue to win and control their division, week in and week out. Same thing about Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan is kind of like on the tail end of his career, seeming very similar to Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees, where like in the right situation with the right coaching staff, with the right weapons, he can probably keep you in playoff contention. But if none of those things are going well, you are where the Falcons were last year. Ryan Tannehill, I mean, come on now, right? Like it's the Derrick Henry show in Tennessee. And while he has been very good, he's been much better than he was in Miami. He's not a guy that I don't think any of us would be like knocking the door down in Tennessee to get Ryan Tannehill here.
Right.
He's solid because of Derrick Henry. I mean, right? Like,
right. And I think Kirk Cousins is probably the most egregious of them all, because Kirk Cousins, not only does he like his team has success, his numbers look good, but then you look at his weapons, right? You have an elite receiver that was listed amongst the and Justin Jefferson,
running back in the league, top 3. I mean,
you have
Dalvin Cook,
top 5, maybe
3,
top 5.
Okay, top 5.
Top 5. I'll give him top 5.
Well, he's not healthy.
Yeah, and then you have Adam Thielen, like
Dalvin Cook,
and they just find a way of making things work. But I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that you could throw in Minnesota that would probably do a little bit better.
Probably, and they had Diggs, right?
Right.
Yeah, they had Diggs at one point. Yeah,
Diggs and Thielen, right?
Right. And again, they were, they were a couple of games out from making it to the Super Bowl, but I don't think any of us would say, well, because of Kirk Cousins. It was like, well, Kirk Cousins is the guy steering the ship, and as long as he doesn't crash into an iceberg, yeah, you'll probably go far.
But to me, Kirk Cousins has more personality than Jared Goff. Now, I doesn't mean it, but
I was going to say,
in regards to, I mean, he shows that craziness, that little psycho side once in a while, which I mean,
well, he has a little more fire under him,
more passion. I think that goes pretty far in the locker room. But again, I never see Goff do that. I never.
Yeah, but I mean, we never saw a whole lot of that at Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford is easily a top 10 quarterback.
We didn't.
Not consistently. No, that was like one of the things Matthew got knocked for the most, was that he never got in guys' faces enough. He never was vocal enough. Like, you have a couple clips.
Yeah, that's true.
You have a couple clips here and there, but nah.
Okay. I really hope.
So I
really hope Malik Willis stinks. That's what I hope right now. If he's in,
well,
I'm gonna be so annoyed.
Well, and I think that's the other thing too, right? So if anybody's wondering about, like, the young guys, right? Mac Jones, do it for a second year before I believe it's true. Trey Lance, literally saw him play for a game.
Yeah, Justin Fields
struggled. Like, some of these younger guys, I just got to see it. It's not to say that they couldn't be better than Jared Goff. And if we were talking about restarting the franchise, and I had to pick one of those guys, I probably would, just because they're younger, and I would be like, oh, well, build a franchise with those types of guys.
You mean you're not interested in Sam Darnold, Miko?
Hell no. To do what? Bag my groceries or?
Oh,
got it. Woo! Where's the siren?
Absolutely. I think he's amazing at doing that. I think he'd be phenomenal.
That was interesting, Miko. That was a very interesting topic. Thank you for doing that and phrasing it that way. That really got me thinking today, and I don't feel like I did it correctly, but so I apologize.
No, I think we all did. I think we all did it very well. I think because the idea was getting to the ultimate point that, like, Jared Goff is not as good as some people think, but he's not as bad as some of us think as well, right? Like, he's literally right there in the middle. It's ironic. He's exactly where a lot of people try to say Matthew Stafford was for years when he was here, where they're like, oh no, Matthew Stafford's like right there in the middle. But we all knew like Matthew had better talent than where he was being slotted. Jared Goff fits right where he's at. He is literally right where he's at. And if things ever go well, his statistics will put him higher on the list. But off of talent alone, off of what he's done in his career, off of what he's able to do as a leader on a team, he's right there. But again, that's not bad because he's not light years out of the top 10.
No, he's
a couple players here or there.
Yahoo Sports has him at 18. I mean, end of last month.
Yeah. And that's a little low for me. Right. But I mean, yeah, and that's low for me. Like, I think he should be higher.
20s. You know, they've got him ranked.
And that's right. And I think if you're somebody who loves Jared Goff, yeah, you have a right to be mad about that. I think that's a little disrespectful. I don't think there's
That's
20.
where a lot of, but that's where majority are putting him. I actually think they got him where he should be at 18.
Yeah, I would 18. I would probably put him because if Tua's above him, if Carson Wentz is above him,
no, Dak, Russell, Lamar, Stafford, Tannehill, Matt Ryan, 14, Derek Carr, Garoppolo, Kirk, then Goff. Weird list.
Yeah, like I have a hard time putting Jimmy Garoppolo. I have a hard time putting Jimmy Garoppolo above Jared
I don't
Goff.
like this stat. I retract it. Never mind. Nobody go to Yahoo Sports. That's annoying.
But yeah, like Jimmy Garoppolo over Jared Goff. Like Jimmy Garoppolo is being actively shopped right now for a dude who started one game.
Do you want to hear this list now? Now I'm like, this list is ridiculous.
At least to 20.
This was end of last month, end of April. Okay. So 1, Josh Allen, 2, Patrick Mahomes, 3, Aaron Rodgers, 4, Joe Burrow, 5, Tom Brady, 6, Justin Herbert, 7, Deshaun Watson, 8, Kyler Murray, 9, Dak, 10, Russell Wilson, 11, Lamar, 12, Matthew Stafford, 13, Ryan Tannehill, 14, Matt Ryan, 15, Derek Carr, 16, Jimmy G, 17, Kirk Cousins, 18, Jared Goff. Then Wentz,
that list got disrespectful.
Trevor, Mac Jones, Drew Lock, Jameson Winston, Daniel Jones, Mitch Trubisky, David. Like,
that list got disrespectful at 6. Like it was going well. First top 5, because I mean you can argue.
You can't really mess that up.
You can argue you can
Brady, obviously Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert at 6?
Yeah.
Like he's in my top 10, but at 6? That's 4 spots higher than I would have ranked him.
I don't think he's 6. He's got a great arm. Sure.
He's got to be 10. He's 10.
I know. Then Deshaun,
then
Tyler, then Dak, then Russell, then Lamar, then Stafford. Like this is it's ridiculous.
Dak in the top 10 is ridiculous as well.
Yahoo, this list is absurd. We should do a whole episode.
Hey, that's
ridiculous.
That's how you get clicks, though.
Yeah,
you make crazy lists and you make crazy statements. And
anyway, I apologize for bringing that to the table in conversation.
Nah, it's all good.
I know.
I forgive you.
It was just nice to see Jared at like 18. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Oh, the rest of the list, never mind.
See, I told you. That's how I look at lists. It's like, oh, okay, this is where this player is listed. Who is rated above this person? And then you start looking at the list above. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy hella disrespectful at this point.
Right. And speaking of that, pass catchers, do we want to talk about Hockenson's contract real quick?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of guys who where do they fall as far as ranking in the NFL? So yeah, Hawk's gonna be up for a contract. And
Njoku just got signed to an extension, big one too.
Yeah, does anybody have the numbers on Njoku's contract?
I got it right here. Hold on. But when Miko is, when do we think?
So they just
what's going on?
So they picked up TJ's 5th-year option. So he has to I guess he doesn't have to. He could hold out if he wanted to, but he's under contract to play this season. The idea would be to get him signed to an extension either before the season starts or hopefully after the season if they want to keep him. I think the question you had posed to us though is, do we think he will get one? Or did you say would he get one, or would he
be
get
the highest paid?
Or
would he be
would it be the highest paid tight end in the NFL? Would they go all the way? So Browns tight end David Njoku agreed to 4-year, $56.75 million contract extension.
And is he now the highest paid?
No, I doubt that. I think it's still got to be Kelsey.
Average in the NFL is position.
Huh?
Okay, so average for this season?
For his position. The 4th highest average in the NFL at his position. So the deal net's $14.18 million per season. So it's 14.
Okay, so 14.8 per season puts him at the 4th highest in the
14.1. 14.18.
Okay,
yeah.
and that puts him at 4th.
Million,
Okay,
and that's 4th.
Of all tight ends.
Yeah, keep going, and I'll get the list, Miko.
Well, no, I was gonna ask John. So, like, John, knowing that, going back to the question, yes, do you think he would get money that would put him in the range of the highest? And do you think he even gets that from the Lions, period?
I mean, I'd like to think he gets that. I don't think he's going to be the highest paid. I think he will probably be more than Njoku. I think top 5 maybe. And if he's top 5, then I think talking about this past conversation about where is Jared Goff ranked, or is he overestimated or underestimated?
I got the list if you want the numbers.
Okay.
George Kittle at $15 million a year. Travis Kelce at $14.3 million a year. Dallas Goedert at $14.25 million a year. Mark Andrews at $14 a year, but this contract puts Njoku above Mark Andrews. That would be the top 4.
So wait, what's Kittle again?
Kittle's $15 million a year, but he's got a $75 million contract.
Yeah.
So I was going an average a year for that.
So like they're barely like inking above each other.
Hockenson currently makes $4.9 million a year.
Yeah, he's going to get paid. It's just a matter of whether it's by the Lions or by somebody else.
I think
so.
14 something. I think they got to get him
14.5.
Yeah, I think you got to get him more than
5. He's the second highest paid in the NFL then, under Kittle at 15 a year. If they give him 14.5, Kelsey's making 14.3.
I mean, yeah, if you're Kelce, that's a you and the Chiefs issue, right? You got to go back to the Chiefs and demand more money. So you're hoping, like, if you're Kelce, you're hoping TJ Hockenson gets paid. You're hoping he gets 14.5 or higher, so that you can go to the Chiefs and say, you got to pay me 17, especially now that they don't have Tyreek Hill.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it helps everybody. So the Njoku contract helps all of these guys.
Yeah. So I'm of the belief. Go ahead, John.
The highest after
I was just going to say
the Hunter Henry with 12.5. Deal with it, Gian.
Oh man.
Can't get it in.
So
that's what she said.
No. That was a good one.
Had Hockenson been healthy every year, I think we would make him the highest paid for sure. But I think the fact that he hasn't played a whole he hasn't played a complete season, regardless of how well he's performed when he's been there. He has played a whole season.
His second year in the league, he played all 16.
Oh, his second year. What's he going into his 4th year now?
Yes.
Okay.
So he played 12. Yeah, he played 12 games his first year, 7 that he started. He played 16. He played and started all 16 his second year, and then 12 games this year.
Okay. I mean, I think Mark Andrews is pretty old, right? He's getting up there. Yes?
I like to think so. He's got to be like in his 30s, right? But I don't know. I feel like tight ends age differently.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
I think he's young enough, and I think he's good enough. I think they will. I don't think they're going to break any records. I don't think they're going to give him Kittle money. But I think 14.4, 14.5, like you said, I think that's fair. And if he doesn't, like, if Hockenson walks after that, I'm not going to consider that a failure. I think if that was the offer, 14.5, and he doesn't sign,
25 years old.
Seriously?
So ancient.
Why does it feel like he's been in the league forever?
He's 25 years old, guys.
That's so crazy. No way.
Double checking right now.
No, he was 25 years old 5 years ago.
There's no way.
I'm looking. 26 years old.
26.
Yeah. 26. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's only
he's
2.
not.
I am sorry, Mark Andrews.
Yeah, we'll send you a gift basket.
He's only 2 years older than TJ Hockenson.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
So, anyways, now that you know that stat, no, he's not old. So,
Did he come into the league 2 years before TJ? 2018.
I'm looking.
Jeez. Anyways, what you were saying, John?
2018, third round of the
Oh my
2018
god.
NFL draft. 2018 NFL draft. My timing is so impeccable
I
today.
know. It's so
You're
annoying.
welcome to everyone listening. Gian has missed me.
Yeah, that is crazy.
This is because of you, Scott. This is this
Pause? What do
dead
you mean?
air. This
Why-
dead air.
what do you-
No one wants to say anything because they're just gonna get jumped on with some stat.
Mark Andrews was
Why
drafted
did you
1
lie?
year before.
What's
Mark
that?
Andrews was drafted 1 year. So Mark Andrews was drafted 1 year before TJ.
My God.
There you go. Okay.
Well,
Do
there
want
you
to
go.
consider your statement, John?
No, I don't think so. No. At the end of the day, I think if, like I said, if the Lions make that offer and TJ's like, no, I'm going to go get more from someone else, I don't think I could begrudge him for wanting more. And I also think I wouldn't begrudge the management for letting that go. I don't think with where this team is at, 15 a year for a tight end is, I don't know. I think that's better spent elsewhere.
Yeah, 100%. There's no way they're going to give him George Kittle money, in my opinion. I mean, they'll maybe give him just over Njoku, like 14-3, 14-2. I don't see it. Why would they do it? What's the point?
Culture fit, team leader.
Yeah, but you don't need to give him $15 million.
When healthy. No, but I think that's enough to give him 14.5. I think
fine.
Because again, if
that's fine.
This is the thing about
$15 million.
I wouldn't hate it. In all honesty, I think that's one of the reasons. I know we've been talking about the reason they've been structuring contracts the way they have is potentially for Jared Goff, but is it potentially for their other offensive weapons that they know Jared Goff needs to function?
Yeah, no, Jared Goff needs to take a pay cut. What?
So I would be under the impression that, again, if the negotiations don't start at 14.5, I would kind of question what Brad Holmes is kind of doing a little bit, because I feel like 14.5 is an easy number to get at when you look at the tier of what all the tight ends are being paid annually. And then, yeah, I guess it does become a matter of, does TJ want 15? And does he think he can get 15 from anywhere else? And does he,
I don't see it, but
not love this place enough to stay for 14.5? Because I think there's enough reason, again, 14.5, you're the second highest paid tight end in the league. You've only had one Pro Bowl season, but you're young. You have shown all the ability. And again, that number's going to get dwarfed.
Right. You could say 14.4. He'd still be the second highest paid. You don't even need to go to 14.5.
You don't need to, but I mean, I think it's an easy, that's the little stuff that irks me. You couldn't throw an extra $100,000 on top of that contract. Throw the extra 100.
No, we got to throw that to one of our 3 kickers.
So
sorry.
2 now.
There was a joke because we had 3 kickers, because that was absurd that we had 3 kickers.
I didn't get it.
Clearly.
But I think TJ is deserving of 14.5 based off of what we've seen from him talent wise. I know people like to be like, well, he only played, listen, he had an injured rookie season, which almost seems standard for rookies these days. Like they're going to miss games. He played all 16 his next year, and they were terrible last year.
We relied so much on him. He had to do everything. Of course, he got hurt.
Well, and that's the other thing too. And I think again, so I think
he got hurt.
Well, and that's why I think, like, again, them picking up his 5th-year option was a no-brainer, simply off the fact that you should want to see what he looks like when he actually has weapons on the outside, when he actually has complementary pieces on the outside that could actually be threats.
Dude will actually
so that TJ's
yeah.
Right. Like TJ was like, think about that. That's how we may be up. Like people may want to argue how good TJ was. They doubled him. They were doubling your tight end.
They didn't have to cover anybody else.
But I'm just simply saying they could have covered everybody single, but they were like, no, we are doubling him because we know he will be like, he's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Those are guys that you pay, in my opinion.
I'm sorry.
Regardless of the position, but it's just, again, you pay the guys that are your game breakers, your playmakers. You got to pay those guys.
Agree.
Sure.
What are you?
$100,000? What's an extra $100,000? That's fine. I'm not writing the check.
14,
I don't care. But
14.5 just seems easy to me. 14.7, fine. I think like 15. I think 15. I think things stall a little.
Yeah, you can't pay him 15. You can't pay him top. Can you pay? I mean,
you can do whatever you want, but I don't. I think fans would be mad. I think fans would absolutely be like. I think fans would be mad if they paid him 15. You paid him George Kittle money.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, George Kittle's been hurt too. So you might want to you may complain about George Kittle's money, but George Kittle be out here hurt too.
I want to ask how old George Kittle is, but then I don't also want to know that he's like 23. Oh, he's 28. Okay, that makes okay.
I was gonna say, because he was at Iowa when he was like in his senior year when TJ was a freshman.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how this season goes. I for sure. I feel like we'd sound like a broken record with this stuff, but so much rides on this season. I think in terms of future success, I think for the coaching staff, I think for these contracts, we even said, who are we just talking about earlier on in the show? You're like, yeah, you did. Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's like, yeah, great. Now do it again.
Yeah.
Hockenson is, he is great when he's in. So just keep doing that. And I think if he does have a breakout year, which he very well may do, because you're going to have to leave him in single coverage to manage Chark, St. Brown, and a healthy Jameson Williams. So he very well could have a massive breakout season. If he has his best season ever, do you then pay him 15?
Oh, you got to.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Like he was on pace. He was on pace to outdo his numbers the year before he got hurt. Like he was already trending in that direction. So yes, I understand the hesitancy with him being injured, but I think he's also shown enough on the field to where but he's a problem. He's dangerous. And again, his contract will get dwarfed. I don't think did you mention Darren Waller on that list of tight end salaries that you were listing off? No. Like Darren Waller's going to get paid. Travis Kelce is going to get paid. So whatever you pay TJ is going to get dwarfed by those two guys.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in this, right, is Njoku's contract. I mean, Miko, we were talking about it earlier, all of us, but I mean, to your point of Hockenson missed how many games and only had 2 less touchdowns, and he still had more yards,
he had more receptions and
less yards, barely, and 2 less.
Yeah, he has 100. Yeah, he has 100 less yards and 3 less touchdowns than David Njoku, and he's played. Games. No, he's played 25 less games.
It was 25 fewer.
Sure,
20. Sorry, yes, 25 fewer games.
Oh my gosh.
25 fewer games than David Njoku. So if David Njoku can get 14-1, 14-5 to me, again, I will say 14-5 seems easy. 14-7 seems easy.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
We can agree.
so. Yeah.
Everybody.
I mean, the only thing that knocks that again is if he's, again, knock on wood, but like, that he has another injury riddled season.
Well, hopefully with the added offense pieces, hopefully less we have to rely on him every play, right? So he doesn't get injured.
And Mitchell, I feel like Jeremy Reisman said it best. I mean, we really never had an adequate tight end 2. And even as a rookie who had never played a snap in the NFL, James Mitchell became the lock for tight end 2. So hopefully having someone else who's competent that can like hold their own at the NFL level. Yeah. So hopefully, Hawkinson's not out there, giving 110%, or I should say he's not overextending himself in the way that it really seemed like when the gap was that big between TE1, TE2, you're going to overextend yourself because there's no one, who like him can block.
There was a gap between TE1 and wide receiver 1. There was a gap there.
Yeah. So, so the fact that he isn't going to be that, like, the offense isn't pinning all of its hopes on DeAndre Swift and TJ Hockenson. Hopefully that, he's not going to try and overextend himself and then get hurt.
Yeah. And I think another thing to hopefully help, like, soothe some people on the injury concerns, it's not like they've been like career crippling injuries, right? Like he hasn't been tearing ACLs or an Achilles or any, knock on wood on all those things, right? Like it's a thumb here. I think it was a thumb last year, and then I think it was a shoulder like his rookie year or something like that, or back. Yeah, actually, I think it might have been his back. Like, so it's not injuries you want to see ever, but it's not like those big ones that like have you being like, oh, well, he'll never be the same player again.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to have a huge season. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to have a huge season.
I think this offense is going to be fun.
Be rookie of the year. I think Jared Goff is going to get conference MVP.
I mean, it could very well be a receiver that's going to get offensive rookie of the year. It could very well be a receiver.
DJ Chark's going to have 20 touchdowns.
All right, now you're just...
I'm kidding. Yes, but I'm just saying, like, this offense is unpredictable. This team is unpredictable. I'm excited to see what happens, honestly.
Yeah, for everything I said about the defense, about how there's so many unknowns, and I think they're really changing it up. I think last year, and this reminds me of what we even were saying. I think Scott even said it was like a season-long preseason. It's just evaluation for 17 games because Holmes and Campbell have 5 years. All these other players, they got Goff was just kind of added in. The trade was Matthew Stafford for 2 firsts. Oh, and here's Jared Goff. I think it was just evaluation. And with this staff being as seemingly intelligent as they are, I think they realize, okay, now we 100% know what we have. And you could see that again throughout the progress they made last season. They started figuring it out, and now they add the best, as many analysts are saying, the best prospect on offense in the draft and the best prospect on defense in the draft. You add that into the mix, not to mention Pascal and Mitchell, Houston, everyone else we got, Malcolm Rodriguez. I'm excited to see, but late rounder. But yeah, I think now it's like, okay, now we can actually start planning. We can build an identity. We can start doing things now because everything is a known quantity. We know what we have. And I think it's not going to look like what we saw last season. Ben Johnson is a whole off season with these guys
Right.
They talked about changing the tempo. Dan Campbell said, we want to be able to go no huddle at any given moment. Just in considering this is the guy who just was calling fake punts in the first quarter against the Rams. That's really exciting. Just like, I'm going to keep you on your back. I'm going to keep you on your heels. I'm just going to keep you moving backward. Whether that means fake punt in the first quarter, whether that means changing up to no huddle, just seemingly at random, I'm going to keep you guessing. And it's very, very exciting.
No, I couldn't say it any better than that.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Nobody interrupted you there.
I greatly appreciate that. And I like how you said nobody as though.
Nobody.
I was going to say as if
nobody. No, I'm the nobody. Not you. I mean, I don't know. I think that about does it for today, guys. We
yeah. No, I think we crushed it. We hit on everything. Talked about everybody.
Yeah, just
I'm like really interested in seeing. I'm so interested in seeing what these comments look like. You guys make sure that you comment, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell because
please.
I don't know. Please. Like Scotty said, like we had technical difficulties, and I missed engaging with people this past week.
We're back.
So make up for lost time.
What, John?
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
I knew it was coming, so I didn't say anything.
No, you didn't. I got you. All right, you guys. I think that'll about do it for today. Again, thank you, Miko, Gian. Appreciate you guys. And again, good show today. Want to thank my wife and daughter, the crew, family, everybody. Again, please like, follow, and subscribe. Continue supporting us. We appreciate it. Like Miko said, we do love to engage, and we missed it last week. So we'll be on it this week. And that's what I got. Miko?
Yeah, no, man. Huge thanks to you guys. Gotta give a huge shout out to my wife, my girls.
Hey,
my wife for being a superhero today because she went out on a camping trip with my oldest and endured all this heat while I got to sit in air conditioning. So shout out to her because Dad wasn't doing it this year. But yeah, huge shout out to my family. Huge shout out to just again everybody that engages with us. Hopefully you guys missed engaging with us as much as we missed engaging with you guys. So like I said, really looking forward to being able to chat and hear your guys' thoughts about our takes this on this episode.
Gian?
Yeah, as always, first and foremost, my lovely wife. And thank you. And I'm going to be lame and maybe a little weird and thank my mother-in-law. She's pretty great. I did hit the jackpot. It's crazy. She's just like the opposite of every pop culture stereotype. So yeah, it's made my life so much easier not to have to deal with a movie villain.
Okay,
quite the opposite.
I was gonna say, where are you gonna go with this one?
Yeah. Well, I was keeping in the wheelhouse like the whole pop culture.
Got it.
Well played. So they're portrayed as the antagonist of every middle-aged slob's life. So.
I'll let John have that one, but my mother-in-law is also very awesome.
Oh, so, nice. Yeah. See,
I think she could go toe to toe with your mother-in-law for greatest of all time.
Well, mine is also amazing. So take that. Go with that.
I just don't think she can stack up to mine. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, that's fine. I don't know how we measure it though.
Battle Royale, obviously.
Yeah, well, we bring them all on. We bring them all on some podcast and some in the future.
We throw them random topics and see which one can hold the conversation the best.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's amazing.
We'll see. But the questionable podcast MIL edition.
Love it.
Boy. Boy. All right. Well, again, thank you. Please like, follow, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This is a Questionable Podcast. Out.